Everyone, welcome. If you are new here, if you are returning, what's going on, y'all? So today we're going to do a general reading. I hope everyone's day is good so far. And if it's not good, hopefully it improves by the end of this reading. Okay? We're just going to see what messages we have for today. We're going to do a quick sound cleansing. Beautiful. And we are going to call upon our spirit guides, our ancestors closest to the sun, our angels, and whoever helps us to feel divinely protected. Okay? Any evil eye, monitoring spirits, or negativity is not welcome here. You don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here. Okay? If negativity is sent our way, that gets transmuted into peace, power, love, prosperity, all of the good things. So let's get into it. We're going to be using our Golden Art Nouveau deck by Julia Massaglia. Okay. And let's see what we get for today. What messages do we need to hear? The Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords, my friends. All right. Okay, let's get into it. So we're going to read the energy and the symbolism in the card. So immediately, the first thing that I noticed when I pulled this was actually the trees in the background. So if you see here, okay, so the trees are kind of being like brushed by the wind, almost kind of like moving, and you're seeing leaves falling in the background, okay? So what that tells me is that this Queen of Swords is in a position where what is no longer serving this individual is falling to the wayside. Okay. And it's in the background because this is happening on a potential subconscious level. Okay. So when we think about the trees being brushed in the background, this makes me feel like there is a thinking process or like a subconscious like thinking mechanism that has to do with family. I feel like this has to do with family, right? So like almost kind of feeling like uprooted, if you will, right? This almost kind of feels like a long time coming because if you look at the tree here, it is, fully grown. The trees like waving in the background through the wind, right? And this is kind of like a call to action to almost like pick up your roots, if that makes sense, right? And like the actual energy based off of this card is very stoic, right? So it's not good, it's not bad, but it's also like not numb, if that makes sense, right? So this could very well be like an air, not Aries, an Aquarius, a Libra, a Gemini, okay? And then something else, when I'm reading the energy in this card, this feels kind of like a mind over matter situation. Okay. So this makes me feel like this individual could be navigating like internalized beliefs surrounding family that could be playing a role in decision making. Okay. So with this Queen of Swords, right? The stoic nature in which she's holding the sword, this is someone who is very intentional with the words that they use and what they do not say. Okay. So this is someone who has like a lot of discernment involving trying to be objective but not cold, right? If this came out in the reverse position, then this was someone who was kind of like, again, like very like cutthroat, cold, like doesn't really care how their words are like perceived or impacted, right? So like in the reverse, that would dictate that this individual is like, it is what it is, take it or leave it. These are my words, like whether or not you like it's not like my problem, right? It'd be very cold. But because we got it in the upright position, this makes me feel like this is someone who is very intentional with how they communicate things. Okay, so again, something to do with the family, because again, I was called to look at this tree in the background, something to do with internalized mindsets or like thinking patterns that is being uprooted, actually. Okay, so let's get a clarifying card. Okay, so again, that could be for Aquarius, Libra, or Gemini. Okay, let's get a clarifier. Page of Cups. Page of Cups. Okay. And now I'm almost kind of curious with the energy of this card. Okay, so if you look at the symbolism here, immediately what I'm noticing is the ocean in the background. Okay, and it is kind of approaching our page, right? So I'm looking at this like wave crashing in the background. So this makes me feel like this is gonna kind of be like the start of a emotional catharsis. Okay. So the energy that I'm getting here is kind of like not quite like the calm before the storm, but this reminds me of like when the tides recede right before like a tsunami. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because this wave is crashing, but it looks like the ocean's receding. Okay. So this could be an individual that is, again, like starting the journey of creative expression, like they're starting the journey of some type of um some type of art. Okay. So this could be like writing, reading, poetry, rap, right? This could be something. So this is actually reminding me of almost kind of like a writer's block, but for creativity temporarily, right? So the reason I say that again is because like it looks like this is like the ocean receding, right? So almost kind of like your creativity is kind of being pulled back a little bit because there's going to be like a wave of creativity not too short after this, okay? So like this it's coming soon. It's in the background, right? So it's going to be happening relatively soon, but it's also going to be a little bit unexpected, right? So this might be like a situation where maybe you've had like writer's block or creator's block for like a hot second. And because this is a page, you might be presented with like a mentorship opportunity or like an apprenticeship opportunity that is going to cause the floodgates to open in terms of creativity. Okay. So another thing that I'm noticing with like the ocean in the background, this could have been someone who, like, for a while didn't really know how to navigate like emotions and transmuting them through creative expression. So this individual is also learning that. Okay. So one thing too that I happen to notice, you've got these, what even are those called? Oh my gosh, my brain. Almost kind of like these pink tulips, right? These pink tulips in the wardrobe of our Page of Cups, right? So this makes me feel like there is a newfound self-love and like self-compassion, if you will. So they're not worried that the creativity is being temporarily like receded, right? They're going with the ebb and flow of this because they know that maybe there is no in-depth emotions that need to be transmuted into art right now, right? Or maybe there are, but maybe now's not the time to prioritize that. Okay. So in relation to our Queen of Swords, okay? So this makes me feel like this could be the same individual, and these are like the different sides to you, right? Like if we're talking about like all right, if we bridge the gap between like mental health, right? So this makes me feel like from a internal family systems perspective, these are different parts, right? So this makes me feel like this could be like a manager, right? A manager. And then this individual, right, or this energy is almost kind of like the part of you that's like cast out, right? Or the one that's just like shoved deep, deep into like the realms of our subconscious, okay? Because this one, being a page, is giving like a youthful energy. So this could be like an inner child, an inner teenager, right? Like a part of you that you kind of like had to shove to the side, maybe out of survival, okay? And then also like this Queen of Swords. This Queen, did I say Queen of Cups before? Queen of Swords, whatever. Y'all know what I mean. This Queen of Swords is like the manager, like the no nonsense, like we gotta like remain on task, like remain in order and like maintain responsibilities. Because this is all mental. Like there's no mood fluctuations or mood dependent behavior here, right? This is like do what you gotta do, don't ask questions, just get it done, right? And there's an integration happening between these two energies. So this could have been like again like a part that was casted out, right? But we're having a reintegration soon. Again, hence the receding of the emotional component, but only to have that tsunami of creativity come forth, right? So this individual is learning the process of how to transmute the emotional piece while maintaining the manager role aspects, right? So let's get another clarifying card. So let's get one more clarifier and then we're going to do bottom of the deck energy, okay? So let's see, what do we get? Oh, sorry, that's not funny. All right. We got the Five of Wands, okay? So I'm sorry, the reason I laughed is because this is like internal conflict, and due to the internal conflict, this might have to do with externalized conflict, okay? So I'm gonna explain a little bit why. So the energy here, right, is basically where during the process of integration, oop, these are reversed. During the process of integration, it gets messy. It gets messy. You might have to make some tough calls involving decision making, and reprioritizing, right? That's gonna ruffle some feathers. It's gonna ruffle some feathers because whenever you choose you, okay, whenever you choose you, there are just natural consequences, right? So when you choose you, there is a cause and effect, right? So you choose yourself, but because you are choosing yourself, guess what happens? There's going to be someone that's going to have to scramble. There's going to be internal dialogues. There's going to be internal conflict, almost kind of like the sense of being conflicted, right? So this also could be like a recovering people pleaser, I feel like, because the energy is feeling very like, I know what I have to do, but I feel guilty about it, right? And then also like there's like this sense of responsibility too. And I think that's also why like I giggled here because you are someone who has like a very strong value system when it comes to like obligation and like responsibilities, right? And you're not used to choosing yourself because you have been suppressing those emotions and those values and like what it is that you want for so long, right? That you're conflicted about how to navigate that type of situation, right? So, and this is the beauty of human beings and our complexity, right? Because again, like someone who can be so calculated and objective and pragmatic can also have the side of them that wants to engage in a level of emotional vulnerability and expression and um, follow like the life of the artist, right? And if you are an artist, like you understand that it is a interesting road because a lot of the times, like in modern day society, there's like the rhetoric or the stereotype of like starving artist, right? Like there's always that stereotype because like there's always going to be someone who's better than you and like your style might not resonate with everyone and now you got to compete with like AI and whatever, right? So the life of the artist has always been like inherently about like finding your freedom and expressing that freedom to where it can relate to other people, right? But when you choose freedom, there is a natural consequence, right? And part of that natural consequence can be the internal conflict that can, by proxy, lead to external conflict, right? And this conflict also has to do with like a passion project, right? So it could be because you're trying to go about things in a pragmatic way, you're integrating the creative part of yourself, but because you're integrating that, it's messy. And because it's messy, there's a natural conflict here, right? Especially if it has to do with like a passion project or something that is lighting a fire within you because you feel like you have to like defend that or you are almost kind of like competing for your passion, right? Like you're almost kind of having like to justify and compete why you're navigating the situation the way that you are, right? So let's do bottom of the deck energy now. Okay, so let's see what we get. The moon. The moon. Okay. All right. So reason why this is significant as like a bottom of the deck card because what we're looking at is the shadow card, right? And the moon has to do with everything involving your subconscious, right? So this is very telling involving this individual because what's happening is a lot of this is happening on the subconscious level, but there's also going to be the externalized manifestation of this, right? So part of this integration is finding the balance between, again, like being the manager, being like on top of responsibilities while allowing for the creative expression. Like this makes me feel like someone like could have been called like too sensitive their whole life, right? So like they're trying to find the healthy balance of like honoring their feelings but remaining objective and, discerning when we have to like navigate responsibilities versus, living the creative, artistic, frolicking life, right? And because of this, this is kind of like solidifying that it's like internalized conflicts that are becoming externalized, right? Because when we talk about our subconscious, 90% of our decision making happens on the subconscious level, right? Especially when we're on autopilot. So when you wake up and you begrudgingly like, get out of bed and you brush your teeth and you're like, driving to work or whatever it is that you're doing, you're not thinking about the why, you're just doing it because it's part of the routine, right? And when it's part of the routine, what happens is whatever we're not processing in the daytime, right? Our subconscious processes this during our sleep. And this can show up in the form of like dreams. This can show up in the form of, again, like you could just be hanging out and you're fine, and then all of a sudden you're moody and you're not sure why. Like we didn't really like think about anything. Like we're just kind of like moody. That could be because something might have got triggered subconsciously, right? Like you might have seen a billboard that reminded you of your divorce, right? You might have like listened to a radio station and someone like was playing a song during your fifth grade graduation and now you're feeling like you're feeling nostalgic or you're feeling upset or whatever it is, right? So this being the shadow card is very telling that this individual, okay, you're going through a pretty significant transformation right now of integration. And then also, When it comes to that, oh, hold on. That has sneeze, false alarm. When it comes to the internal conflict, right? 9 times out of 10, this has to do with a misalignment of your values, right? So if you're navigating internal conflict, what is your top 5 values right now? What's important to you? And how much of your active decision making is in alignment with that? Okay. So if you value, again, let's say you value freedom, right? But you are like busting your behind at like a 9 to 5, right? And you're doing overtime and you're saying yes to all these things out of obligation because maybe your other value is work ethic, right? So check in with what is important to you right now. And then you want to be pragmatic, compassionate, and strategic with your decision making. Okay. So this could be, we're looking at like the cards and like potential zodiac signs. Again, this could be Aquarius, Libra, Gemini. It could also be a Pisces. Pisces, potentially Cancer. I'm gonna include Scorpio just because a 5 of Wands. This could also be maybe like Sagittarius. When it comes to the moon, a little bit heavier on the Pisces, a little bit heavier on the Pisces. Maybe even Cancer. Maybe even Cancer. Okay. So this individual, you could have placements again like Sun, Moon, Rising. This could also be This could be Saturn. This could also be someone's Saturn return as well. Um, so I'm gonna put down in the description like who this could potentially be for. But again, it's a little bit messy, but like that's growth, right? Like, remember when you were children and like you were growing into the next version of yourself, like the growing pains, right? Like, that's not for no reason. This growing pain has to do more with like the mental, emotional, and the spiritual, right? So it's a different type of growing pain. Okay, cool. So besides that, I think that's about it for this reading. If you stuck around for the whole thing, thank you so much. I'm grateful for you. If you stopped by, you're also awesome, and I am very, very appreciative. I hope you have a great night or day whenever you're watching this. As always, you are divinely protected, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.